Just recently, Young Thug accepted a plea deal and went home, putting an end to the nearly 2-year-long trial, the longest criminal trial in Georgia history. Thug was facing a ton of charges that could have put him away for life, but because of a ton of crazy incidents during his court case, he only ended up getting probation. So to understand all of the crazy things that resulted in Thug getting a mistrial, we have to understand the circumstances around his arrest. On May 9th of 2022, Young Thug was arrested alongside 27 other people as part of a 56-count indictment. According to Billboard, Thug was hit with charges for allegedly participating in violent street activities and conspiring to violate the RICO Act. He was tied to accusations of murder, assault, gun possession, illegal drug possession, and more around the Atlanta area since 2012. RICO stands for Racketeer, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations. So basically what racketeering or RICO means is that they thought Thug and his record label slash collective YSL was an organized crime group and that Young Thug was their leader. Basically, the RICO Act is a way of like getting people that are connected to crimes but you don't have much evidence of them actually doing it. At least that's my understanding. I'm not a lawyer, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like they were saying that Thug was the boss and the YSL people who may have committed crimes were just following orders or were influenced by him. In song lyrics like "I never killed anybody but I got something to do with that body" and "I told them to shoot 100 rounds" definitely didn't help, but we'll talk more about lyrics here in a second. Oh, and they were also saying that YSL was affiliated with the Bloods. According to Vulture, the indictment apparently had 182 instances of the collective's participation in gang activity and criminal conspiracies, citing lyrics, social media posts, and clothing or accessories with slime emblazoned on them as evidence. The Atlanta police had been investigating YSL for a while, claiming they had evidence all the way back to 2012. Young Thug himself, though, was personally charged with conspiracy to violate the Racketeer, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act for an offense dating to January 2013 and criminal street gang activity for an offense dating to May 2018. They were saying that Thug threatened to kill a man at a shopping mall, that he rented a car that was used in the murder of a man in 2015, and that he was trying to distribute meth. So he wasn't actually charged with those last three things that I just said, but because of the RICO Act, they were saying he was connected to him. Some YSL members were hit with a few more charges, like the murder of the man I mentioned earlier, whose name was Donovan Thomas Jr. 5 people, including Yak Gotti, were accused of killing him. 3 people who were allegedly YSL members were accused of trying to murder YFN Lucci, and they were saying that a YSL associate shot at Lil Wayne's tour bus. One of the biggest controversies super early on in this case was the use of Young Thug's song lyrics in the indictment. They used lyrics like "Ask the cops, ask the detectives, they all know the business. Ask the cops and the detectives, all the jurisdictions. Gave the lawyer close to 2 mil, he handles all the killings. We don't speak about shit on wax, it's all mob business." In response to them using this in the case, Thug said, "I always use my music as a form of artistic expression, and now I see that black artists and rappers don't have that freedom. Everybody please sign the Protect Black Art petition and keep praying for us. I love you all." I actually made a whole video about how controversial it is to use rap lyrics in court and different instances that it's been used. It's a very interesting subject, and they actually made this illegal in California. On top of all of that though, they also eventually got Gunna, who many of you know is a fellow artist and friend of Young Thug. In the same traffic stop where they found the meth and other drugs they believed that Thug wanted to distribute, Gunna was also there. And the police also found a bunch of weapons like an AK-47 and a Glock with a switch, which, if you didn't know, is very illegal. Thug's home was eventually raided and he was denied bail. And after the raid, they tacked on 7 more felonies because they found more guns and drugs. By the end of the year, as many of you probably know, Gunna took a plea deal and was freed, with the rest of his sentence being suspended. Of course, this resulted in a lot of people calling Gunna a rat, to which he said, "Well, I have agreed to always be truthful. I want to make it perfectly clear that I have not made any statements, have not been interviewed, have not cooperated, have not agreed to testify or be a witness for or against any party in the case, and have absolutely no intention of being involved in the trial process anyway." However, Gunna did acknowledge that he could be called to the witness stand by any party, so he would have had to testify truthfully, but he could have also just pleaded the fifth if he didn't want to answer any questions, and it didn't end up mattering as Gunna never had to testify. However, at one point he did acknowledge that YSL was both a music label and a gang, and that he had personal knowledge that members or associates of YSL have committed crimes in furtherance of the gang. So this is how it all began. This all went down before Young Thug's actual trial, but you may be wondering, what evidence do they have on Thug connecting him to all of these crimes apart from the lyrics I mentioned earlier? What even tipped them off in the first place and made them want to start investigating Thug? Well, a lot of that starts with Lil Woody, who was a key figure during this whole trial. Woody, whose real name is Kenneth Copeland, which I thought was funny because there's this crazy preacher dude with the same name, name, was intended to be one of the star witnesses during the trial. This is because he had been arrested a few times before and wanted to get out of it. The first time was in 2018 when he brought an assault rifle to a gym and left it on the bleachers while he went to play basketball. There was a bunch of people in the gym, including kids, and obviously people ended up calling the police. Then he got arrested again for having a gun on him during a traffic stop, so the police kept interrogating him. And as he was likely trying to get out of potential gun charges, which could have been pretty bad since he is a felon, he started trying to give them information about Young Thug.
Something gonna happen today.
What's gonna happen?
What's gonna happen?
Somebody's supposed to get killed tonight.
Who?
You know who?
I don't know who. There's so much going on in the city. I don't know who. You're gonna have to.
You sit down.
There's so much.
I told you I know right there.
What do you say that?
But the thing about people die every day in the city. If you can't be specific so we can do our job and save a life, you can't help yourself unless you say, okay.
I'm just let me tell you something. I've been to the feds.
And what did you tell me about going to the feds?
This is a murder that's about to take place with some very high people. And the stuff that I know right now, you know what I mean, should be able to help me get out of my situation. You know what I mean? I'm not bullshit. You know, the last information I gave y'all was right. That I was just shooting at
Right.
wrong.
Okay.
I can get the time when they gonna go do it. So y'all can catch me in the act.
I mean, Lucci's locked up.
Shit,
I don't know.
kill.
So how?
She always been tight.
Who?
Kill.
Who's always been tight?
Shit, kill.
And who?
He's this man. He's obsessed with this guy. He won. This is as much as I can say. Cause y'all already taken.
Wait, you're like, ooh, I'm gonna get lost. You said who's tight with Shell? No, your friend's not here. Nobody can hear you. Like your friend's not here. We moved him for that
Yeah,
purpose.
the person y'all just think that I did tell me anything. He wants him. He want him as bad.
So you're talking about Jeffrey.
So like you heard in that clip, Woody was telling them about a murder plot involving Thug. Woody has also mentioned that he didn't really care for Thug since Thug had mentioned him on a song. On the song Halftime, Young Thug said, "Lil Woody pull up and pop at his noggin." Woody said, "I don't like him rapping about me. Why are you rapping about what I'm doing in the streets? Like that ain't got nothing to do with you." So yeah, I was mad at him and I was plotting on him. And I want you guys to keep all of this in mind going forward because this is going to become very important. Because like I said, with all of this information, Woody was supposed to be a key witness in the trial. But the trial itself had some complications from the very beginning. By the time Thug's trial began in November of 2023, they went from 28 defendants down to 6. Basically, a bunch of people either got locked up or took plea deals. The reason it took over a year to start the actual trial for Thug is because potential jurors kept getting out of it by claiming things like they couldn't be impartial or saying that the long trial would halt the requirements of their daily lives. Apparently, thousands of potential jurors had been summoned and dismissed. And this wasn't all that slowed down the trial. Lots of other wacky stuff happened that really caused the trial to take a long time. On January 18th in 2023, the prosecutors accused Thug of taking part in a drug handoff with a co-defendant while in the courtroom. As it turns out, the dude actually did hand Thug some drugs, which is pretty crazy to do while you're both in court on trial as defendants. And after the guy did the handoff with Thug, an officer noticed him hide it under the table, so he took it and it ended up being Percocets. Thug's attorney said he was not involved with the wrongdoing and that the prosecution is trying to punish him for the actions of the co-defendant. His lawyer claimed he did not want, ask for, or conceal the pill and in fact gave it up as soon as he received it. So Thug didn't end up getting any punishment for this. The co-defendant actually did though, and he had to go to the hospital because he swallowed all of the other contraband he had with him to try and hide it. Then on May 11th of 2023, the court proceedings halted when Thug briefly fell ill. According to his attorney, this was not the first time he was hospitalized, which raised concern for his well-being. His legal team claimed that Thug was suffering from exhaustion due to his environment, saying, "Mr. Williams is sleep deprived, mandated to wake up on court days between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., and not having more than 5 hours of sleep per night. By the end of the week, Mr. Williams is fighting to pay attention to the goings-on in his case." On November 9th of 2023, Judge Earl Glanville ruled that song lyrics were allowed to be used in court, which, as I mentioned earlier, was very controversial. The defense argued a ton against the use of lyrics, but Judge Glanville decided in the end that they are not protected by the First Amendment. So this allowed 17 sets of lyrics to be used against Thug and the other co-defendants. Thug's attorney stated, "They're saying that just because he is singing about it, he is now part of a crime." In response to the argument, the judge said, "They're not prosecuting your clients because of the songs they wrote. They're using the songs to prove other things your clients may have been involved in. I don't think it's an attack on free speech. So yeah, basically what this means is that they could submit song lyrics as evidence. Judge Glanville explained that lyrical evidence could still be denied, objected to by the defense, and weighed by the jury appropriately. Then, like I said, the trial actually began on the 27th of November in 2023, almost exactly a year ago. The next day, the first viral moment occurred when Thug's lawyer explained what Thug actually stood for. Brian Steele, one of Young Thug's main defense attorneys, said Thug means truly humble under God. He said Pushin' P means pushing positivity, that YSL was from Yves Saint Laurent, and that slat means slime love all the time. Not gonna lie, after seeing this clip, I think myself and a lot of other people thought Thug was cooked, but as you may know, that didn't end up being the case. The next big moment came when a 911 call from 2013 was played, in which Young Thug was directly named as an alleged gunman in a shooting. On the phone call, a female is heard saying, "They came to my house and told me that the guy who shot somebody's name was Young Thug, whoever that's supposed to be." There was also an alleged co-founder of YSL, Tick and Slug, who testified that YSL started as a music label, but later said that it became a street gang. Throughout this whole trial, there was a bunch of other strange and notable things that made it last much longer than it probably should have. For example, a juror was detained for filming the proceedings. The defense attorney for one of the YSL members was arrested. One of the YSL co-defendants was convicted of murder separate from the YSL trial. A witness admitted to being super high, and a whole bunch of stuff like this.
Can I get the water or something? I'm so high right now, y'all. I'm about to go to sleep on y'all now.
There was even a DA investigator texting one of the female witnesses hitting on her. He said, "Hit me up if you're bored later. We're not gonna talk shop." Like, dude, it was crazy that all of this stuff was going on during his trial. So as you can probably imagine, this case was kind of becoming a disaster. I mean, it had been like 2 years since it actually had began. They had a ton of things that were slowing it down, a bunch of issues, and it didn't really seem like they were getting anywhere. And then everything came crashing down. This is in large part thanks to Woody, because if you remember everything I mentioned about him earlier, the case started to fall apart. See, Woody wasn't really cooperating with the prosecutors, and he was supposed to be one of their main witnesses. And remember how I said he blamed a bunch of stuff on Thug to get out of trouble? Well, he admitted to making all of that up.
So it may seem like I'm trying to help Thug out. I'm not trying to help him out. I don't care nothing about him, what he got going on, nothing. I care about the truth. The truth was, I was going through a phase in my life, and I have put all the blame on him. I don't know what he did. I don't know what he got going on. But y'all got me on the stand, and I'm telling the God honest truth. Leave me out of this. I made all these stories up, put the blame on him to get myself out of the situation because the police told me they want a big fish, and I'm a little fish. They ain't who I want. So when they told me that, my only motive was to convince them that I'm telling the truth about this guy right here, and I'm lying.
He also said, "This is what happened. The police kept locking me up for whatever they could. Every time I come out the door, the police was on me, and they keep bringing up Thug's name. So what I did was, to get him off me, I said, Thug did this, Thug did that, because I knew I knew he didn't do it." He even admitted that he made up fake names about people that he snitched on.
There you're saying that you gave the card to Javante, who gave it to Lil Mike and Quez, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you would agree that detectives Gaither and Dennis are telling you we've never even heard of Lil Mike and Quez, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland, Lil Mike is not a real person, is he?
No.
That was the finesse. You invented a person out of thin air, correct?
Yes.
Quez is not a real person. You invented him out of thin air on the spot, correct?
Yes.
You invented those people to take the heat off of you and put it on fictional characters.
I done told y'all that's what I do.
That's your finesse, right?
Woody started tearing everything apart, and if you've seen any clips of him, you would know that he was not cooperating at all during this trial.
How old are you?
Grown.
Okay, what does grown mean?
I'm an adult.
Okay. And when you say you're an adult, what number in years are you?
I plead the fifth.
Apparently, Woody even said he gave someone the car that was involved in the murder of Donovan Thomas, which would likely mean Thug's in the clear. And after this incident I just showed, he was arrested in contempt of court. Woody had immunity, but part of that deal was that he had to cooperate. However, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, because he admitted he lied later on. Likely because of his lack of compliance though, Judge Glanville had a secret meeting with Woody outside of court. Thug's defense found out about the secret meeting, said it was a violation of their rights, and called for a mistrial. The judge kept asking Brian Steele, Thug's lawyer, how he found out about this, and he didn't want to say how. So the judge had him arrested in contempt of court and was trying to sentence Steele to 10 weekends in prison, to which Steele requested to be put in the same cell as Thug. They did quickly file an appeal so Thug's lawyer didn't have to go to prison, but this whole incident caused the trial to be put on hold back in July 1st of this year. Then on July 15th of 2024, they officially removed Judge Glanville from the case. Another judge was assigned to review the motion and agreed that the secret meeting violated Thug's rights to a fair trial. The outside judge said, "This court has no doubt that Judge Glanville can and would continue presiding fairly over this matter if the recusal motions were denied, but the necessity of preserving the public's confidence in the judicial system weighs in favor of excusing Judge Glanville from further handling of this case." Basically, they were saying, like, we think he would still do the right thing, but it doesn't look that good what he did, so he's out of here. 2 days after this, the next judge assigned to the case was recused or taken off because she thought she couldn't be impartial. The third and final judge on this case was Judge Paige Whitaker. With a new judge, Thug and his team tried to get him out on bail again, but luck was not on their side as it was denied. The new judge said, "I don't know how I would have decided the bond originally. That's not before me. These are not the kind of changed circumstances required under precedent, so I'm not going to reconsider the bond." His team also requested for a mistrial, and their main argument revolved around the secret meeting that Judge Glanville had with the prosecution and the witness, but the new judge said that the meeting was not enough to declare a mistrial. Instead, she just sent the prosecution team to extra training, which is kind of funny because they probably already knew it was wrong, so that really didn't do much for them. But regardless, following all of this, the trial proceeded pretty much as normal. And this was like this summer, so it took all of this time to get to the final judge. They had all of these problems, and it was just a crazy case. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't fully understand how the legal system works, but I do think it's pretty obvious with how many issues happened, especially on the prosecutor's side of things, and how long the trial was taking, that all seemed to somewhat benefit Thug. I mean, one of the key witnesses, Woody, said he lied about all of it, and the state hardly had much evidence. So when no one else is saying that Thug did these things, other than some people saying that YSL was a gang, there really wasn't much dirt that prosecutors had on young Thug. Plus, the case had been going on for so long that people were getting tired of it. I mean, just recently a juror even tried to get excused because of how long the overall YSL trial was taking, which brings us to what happened just recently. On November 31st, Young Thug pleaded guilty and accepted a plea deal. He pled guilty to 6 charges. 1 count of participation in criminal street gang activity, 3 counts of violating the Georgia Controlled Substances Act, 1 count of firearm possession during commission of a felony, and 1 count of possession of a machine gun. Thug did want to clarify though that he was not going to plead guilty or admit that he was the leader of a gang, and him and his lawyer made that very clear. Plus, at this point, there are only 2 people left from YSL that are on trial. The terms for this plea deal are pretty strong, but at least he isn't facing a maximum sentence of 120 years in prison anymore. However, his 20-year sentence is backloaded, which means he could get 20 years if he violates his probation, which had a bunch of rules. First of all, his probation is 15 years long. One of the main rules of his probation is that he can't stay in the Atlanta metro area for the next 10 years. He's only allowed to return for family weddings, funerals, and graduations. He also needs to give 4 anti-gang and anti-violence presentations every year to kids in Atlanta, but it could also be a benefit concert instead of a school. Because he's a musician, he is allowed to travel and to keep his passport, but Young Thug isn't allowed to be in contact with gang members or those named in the YSL indictment while on probation. However, the judge made an exception for 2 people. His brother, Quantavious Greer, who is serving a 9.5-year prison sentence after he pled guilty to possessing a firearm on probation in the YSL case, and Gunna, who Thug said he is contractually obligated to work with through the YSL record label. And despite what you may think when you hear the term plea deal, Young Thug does not have to testify about YSL or any of the other ongoing trials. Thug also has to perform 100 hours of community service each year of his probation, which includes the presentations I mentioned earlier. He isn't allowed to use drugs or be near firearms, weapons, which is pretty standard, but the judge did make an exception for his security to be allowed to carry guns. Finally, Young Thug is also no longer allowed to promote gang activity, make gang signs, or use gang-related language in any of his music. This is a pretty big one for music fans, especially since it's pretty easy for like a prosecutor to get confused and be like, oh, well, this could be a gang word or something. But Thug himself did say that he wants to change his subject matter. He said, I understand, rap lyrics. I understand how it could be twisted. I understand what it could do to the mind of people. I understand all that, and I promise you I'm 100% changing that. He said that the trial helped him become more aware of his influence and that he has more to rap about. The judge said, whether it is fake or not, it has tremendous impact on kids and young people who think, this is cool, this is what I want to do. Look at him, he's a millionaire. I can do that by being, a gangster in the streets. And that is not true. If you choose to continue to rap, you need to try to use your influence to let kids know that this is not the way to go. She said he was talented and said he should be more of the solution and less of the problem. So after all of that, Young Thug is free and at home. I did make a post about Young Thug being free, and a lot of the comments were negative because people have this preconception that he 100% killed someone. But clearly the state didn't have nearly enough evidence to connect him to it or suggest that he put out a hit, so he was never convicted. So hopefully this video explained the situation well and cleared up any misconceptions that anyone may have. And if it did, maybe leave a like or even consider subscribing down below. Other than that, this has been Matty Balls, and I will catch you guys next time.